It's 3 o'clock. We'll go ahead and start this meeting. First item on the agenda is a roll call. So roll call, please.
Vice Chair London,
Here.
Commissioner Moore, Commissioner Garza,
Here.
Chairman Sol,
Here.
Commissioner Smith,
Here.
Commissioner Klein,
Here.
and Commissioner Stewart.
Here.
All right. We have a quorum. The next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Is there any changes needed to the agenda?
If there's no changes, I move for approval of the agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Garza, second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any against? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Is there any edits needed to the minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve as printed.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Smith, second by Commissioner London. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Motion passes. Under new business, item A, we have a discussion and recommendation regarding a replat of Fairfield Unit 1 subdivision. Mr. Chancho?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman. The request for approval of the replat of Fairfield Unit 1 subdivision meets the standards of Chapter 17 and Appendix A of the city's Unified Development Ordinance and is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. All adjoining property owners within 100 feet of the affected area were notified with zero responding in protest. There is no compelling evidence that there would be a threat to the public health, safety, and welfare, which is unique to the proposed request. The applicant is in the audience if you have any questions for her.
Okay. Would any commissioner have any questions for the applicant or no? No. And did you want to say anything? Of course, okay. You don't have to, it's fine. Okay, with there being no questions and no statements, I can go ahead and entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Stewart, second by Commissioner Garza. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Garza,
Yes.
Chairman Sol,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Klein,
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart,
Yes.
and Vice Chair London.
Yes.
With all in the affirmative, the motion passes. Next item on the agenda is discussion and recommendation regarding a replat for a tract in Block 2, 3, 4, 9, and 10 of South Park Edition. Mr. Chancho?
Thank you, Chairman. The request for approval of the replat of Block 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, and 10 of South Park Edition meets the standards of Chapter 17 and Appendix A of the city's Unified Development Ordinance and is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. All adjoining property owners within 100 feet of the affected area were notified, with zero responding in protest. There is no compelling evidence that there'd be a threat to the public health, safety, and welfare, which is unique to the proposed request. And Mr. Leidick is here for this one, if you
Okay.
have questions.
Would any of the commissioners have questions for Mr. Leidick? And Mr. Leidick, do you want to come up and give us anything? You really don't have to if you don't want to, but. I'll be very brief. Okay, all right. I'll go ahead and swear you in. Name and address, though.
Yeah, Chad Leidick, 906 Kern Drive.
Okay. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give today will be truthful?
I do.
All right, please go ahead.
Briefly, this is a tract of land that's been vacant for a long period of time, and the proposed usage, I believe, is for a future church site, and they're replatting this into two tracts, one large tract which would contain the church, and then tract 2 is a small lot that will be used for residential purposes. They'll build a house on that lot. And we do have utilities available for extension to this site, and I don't see any problems with, having all the city services available.
Any questions?
I do have a quick question, maybe for Les or Chad, I'm sorry. There's some alleys notated on here. And I think I've reached out to Les about this previously because they're reflected on my maps. But would that, I guess, is that gonna vacate these, or do they even need to be vacated? Are they even a thing?
Well, I don't know if you're referring to mine or not.
I am not referring to yours,
Okay,
I'm more
yeah.
referring to mine.
Yeah, it's my understanding if we replat that whole area, those would all be vacated.
Perfect.
Any other questions?
I'll move for approval.
Have a motion from Commissioner Garza,
Second.
second from Commissioner Klein. Roll call, please.
Chairman Sol,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Klein,
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart,
Yes.
Vice Chair London,
Yes.
Commissioner Garza.
Yes.
Okay, with all in the affirmative, motion passes. Next item on the agenda is a discussion and action regarding carports. City Attorney Morris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we're kind of resuming this from our last meeting. When we broke, I think some of you were going to visit the site location where the applicant resided and maybe do some research of your own. I told you I would look for some helpful sample ordinances on carports from other jurisdictions, and I think I can safely say that there aren't any. I've looked at probably over 50, and they're all just bare bones building requirements, setback requirements, rear side versus front yard requirements. And so then I started looking at, why are there no other ordinances like ours? And what I think the answer to that is that most cities just make these minimum building requirements, but then they also reference neighborhood covenants. And so I think they just allow neighborhood covenants to deal with the issue individually. And so that's why I think that I wasn't able to find anything similar to what we have in terms of specifications on the type of structure and the color and materials, et cetera. So, sorry, I wasn't able, I don't know if any of you found anything else. I'd be happy to hear if you did, but I don't have any changes to the wording I came up with before the last meeting. Again, there's two options. I think the issue the gentleman had was the roof pitch. So I gave you one option where the roof pitch doesn't have to match, so you can have a flat roof and a pitched carport or vice versa, but the supporting structure still has to match. And then I gave a third option where it relaxes all the requirements and the supporting structure just has to be similar, but doesn't have to match the actual materials of the exterior finish, and also allowed them to be a little bit bigger. So I don't know if any of you have any ideas or comments or additions to the language, but that's all I have at this point.
Thank you. Commissioners?
I did some site visit, and I saw there's discrepancies already on the neighborhood. One is a flat roof, and then on the corner, 117 Rose Drive or Boulevard, it's complying with the requirements. So, in my opinion, I really don't see a big deal on this to try to change something that has been working for several years.
So you notated that a lot of cities had left it up to the individual covenants to handle it. Don't those expire?
Well, they can be automatically renewed. Most of the ones I've read have an automatic renewal clause.
Okay.
But yeah, and so the language, like Plano was one I remember reading several times. It has the minimum building requirements, setbacks, et cetera, but then it says in several places, however, neighborhood covenants may be more restrictive and you still have to abide by those, although we don't enforce those. And so then that's what led me down that path, and I realized I couldn't find anyone else that actually in their ordinance citywide dictated what the exterior finish had to look like, et cetera. So, and I don't know who, I'm sorry, I don't know who came up with it, or, Mr. Holt and I don't think were here when it was enacted, but, so I don't know where it was borrowed from or what the impetus behind it was or much about the history of it.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman and members of the board, the consultant that we were utilizing at the time, a lot of this information came out of Tulsa, if I remember correctly. He's works nationally. I know that he's home based out of Tulsa, so I think a lot of that information probably is very similar to what they have there. And also, covenants and restrictions, as you guys are all well aware of, in the state of New Mexico, the city does not enforce covenants. And so it's up to the individual property owners to enforce those covenants and act them upon themselves. And that does also vary from state to state on how municipalities enforce covenants too. And some of those carports, is Commissioner Garza was referring to, not knowing if they may have been grandfathered in, not grandfathered in, et cetera.
And that's part of the problem that we run into that there's cases where somebody just decides to build a carport because, hey, I'm gonna protect my property, which is fine. But they don't bother to come and ask for a permit, and therefore they don't know what the rule is. And that's why you wind up with flat roofs here and pitch roofs somewhere else, and that's the inconsistency that we have, and that's what we were trying to avoid, I'll say 15 years ago when we passed this. And we work, I think, Vince, you were the last one that worked on this a little bit, maybe?
Yeah,
I can't remember that.
I was here with that consultant.
I do know it took 3-4 years to
Yeah.
redevelop the entire UDO. It was
Right.
a long
Time.
process.
And I was thinking about working on a variance in some cases, but again, you start giving variances and you will run into the same thing, inconsistency. So I don't know. I just don't feel like we need to change anything if it's not broken per se. And if it's been working fine for this many years, then why change it?
All right. Any other comments, questions?
I agree.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, we'd be looking for a motion to take no action on the text amendment.
Or a motion to not change, okay.
Correct.
So we can take a motion for there to be no change to the ordinance. Keep it as is.
Motion for no change.
Second.
Is that you, Klein? Okay. Motion by Commissioner Klein and second by Commissioner London. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Stewart. It was Commissioner Stewart, just for the record.
Me.
Oh, Stuart, oh my
Yes,
God.
sir.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I owe you now.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Klein?
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart?
Yes.
Vice Chair London?
Yes.
Commissioner Garza?
Yes.
Chairman Sol.
Yes. With all in the affirmative, the motion passes. Next item on the agenda is future agenda items. Do we need anything with that? Nope. Okay. So for the good of the order, the next meeting date is going to be, our next meeting will be at 3 p.m. Wednesday, November 9th, same place, same time. So with there being no further business, meeting is adjourned.